Batteries fully charged. Launch ready for AEW Spark in 3, 2, 1. All Elite Wrestling discussion is live. Cue host Owen Finch.
Welcome everybody to AEW Spark for hopefully June 26, 2022. I've had to re-record this video a few times because I kept messing up or people keep walking in or, you know, what ended up happening one of the times is the app I'm using, I can't minimize the video while I'm recording it, so I ended up stupidly doing that and I lost the whole video. I could have just edited it, but there's a certain thing I have to do that's kind of a pain in the ass when I edit this video, so I'd rather just do it all in one video. But let's talk about it. So hopefully this video doesn't become completely useless because by the time a lot of you see this, Blood and Guts will be stolen. So a lot of what I say might not mean anything, but I'm making the video anyways. This is just how my schedule worked out. Deal with it. I wanted to do this yesterday, but it just didn't work out that way. But let's get to some AEW talk because we had a big week in AEW. And probably for the final time since Forbidden Door is coming up, we're going to jump across the pond to New Japan shows that they did called Road to and Corrigan Hall. There was some AEW stakes that took place on those shows. I'm not going to talk about all the shows because, or all the matches on the shows anyways, just because they didn't have anything to do with AEW. It should be kind of weird, but to kind of give you guys a general thought of what I thought of these shows. I thought they were actually decent shows. They weren't the best shows because typically New Japan Pro Wrestling just kind of throws these shows out there just to kind of give content. But they were good shows. You had Kushida return, which was cool. You had awesome main events in the junior heavyweight division. And you had some good tag matches and stuff. But the real stakes were the AEW stakes, which is why I ended up watching these shows. A lot of people have been complaining about the fact that you have to watch the New Japan stuff to keep up with AEW, which you don't necessarily have to. You could just watch the one match and then that's it. Like the matches in total are probably an hour. Well, if you in total, if you counted all three matches, it's probably an hour and a half out of your life. It's really not that much to ask if you just watch the matches themselves. And, you know, you really don't have to watch these shows. It's just nice. I mean, it's AEW promoting New Japan. It gets new eyeballs on that product. So, really, I don't really see the issue with it, but whatever. But let's start with these matches. I'm just going to talk about these matches all in one go because technically the Road 2s took place on two separate days, but I'm just going to talk about it all in one go since it wouldn't really make much sense structure-wise to go to Elevation and then talk about a new show. I'm just going to talk about these all in one go because they all have to deal with their All-Atlantic Championship tournament. So it's kind of cool. They kind of had a tournament within a tournament because they had two matches, and whoever won these matches was gonna advance to another match to advance to the tournament. It was really weird, but that's how they chose to do it. I would have just done a Fatal 4-Way match, but that's just me, but whatever. Or a Battle Royal, the winning guy got into the match, but that's how they chose to do this, and I'm not really gonna hate on it. Because the three matches we got actually were very good. The first one was Clark Connors versus Tomoka Hama. This was really good. I really enjoyed this match. Clark Connors, if you look at Clark Connors, he looks like he's somehow related to Heyman Adam Page, if you just look at him. Not that like he's his son or anything, but I would say more like a distant cousin or like a brother or something, because he pretty much looks like Adam Page, except, Adam Page has a bit more muscle, and he's a bit more taller than Clark Connors, but it's Adam Page if he like shrunk down and lost some muscle. And the AEW is definitely, not AEW, New Japan's definitely, I think, embraced that because he comes out now with a cowboy hat and everything like that, which I don't think he did before. So I think that's kind of funny how that happened. This was a really good match, though. It was face versus face, but I kind of liked that they still had that sense of urgency to win. And it was really good. I would definitely check it out. Clark Connors ended up getting the win with his finisher, which I believe is a fisherman suplex into a pile driver. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a really good match. Afterwards, Clark Connors talked about how tomorrow night he's gonna go and defeat his opponent and go to Forbidden Door to become the All-Atlantic Champion after everything he's worked for. And Hama was upset because it's another big opportunity that passed him by, like the G1 and the tournaments have the past few years, but he said he's going to keep working. I don't necessarily think that's going to lead to a heel turn. I just think that's going to be a nice little storyline that's going to happen with Hama for a while, so that's kind of cool. Let's get to the match that I think was the best match out of these three matches that had to do with the All-Atlantic Championship, and that was Tomo Ishii versus Yoshinobu Kanamora. Holy shit, what a match. I love this match. I've always known Ishii could go. I haven't really seen much of that from him because the last few matches I've seen of him has been against House of Torture, and I really don't like that stable all that much. And, you know, we've seen those matches run back again, and again, so it's been done to death. But I enjoyed this match. I like that there was a sense of urgency to win this match. You had Kanamora go for a roll-up like 3 times in the match, which I enjoyed. And, you know, they just really went at it in this match. Kanamora really worked over the leg of Ishii, which I think we found out, you know, I don't think Ishii was necessarily selling the injury all that much. He did a shin breaker onto the floor. He did a shin breaker into the ring. He ended up getting him into the figure 4, but Ishii ended up getting to the ropes. He just really worked over the leg of Ishii. Ishii really went to town on Kanamora. He ended up hitting a wicked suplex. He had a brain buster off the turnbuckles. Kanamora kicked out of 4 lariats in this match. 4 lariats, which was surprising. Eventually, though, he couldn't kick out of the 5th lariat. It was not to be. But I thought this was a huge coming out party for Kanamora. I really haven't seen a lot of his work. I thought he was just kind of like a solid hand that'd be in 6-man matches and stuff, but that was not the case. He ended up trying to cheat at one point and go to spit alcohol into Ishii's face, but he failed. But I thought this was a hell of a match, and I thought Kanamora really showcased himself. But this ended up leading to the match the next night, which was Ishii versus Clark Connors. This was a hell of a match as well. Not as good as Kanamora versus Ishii, but this was very good. There was a spot where they just both chopped the shit out of each other, where it didn't affect any of them, which was awesome. But eventually, Ishii ended up winning with the brain buster into the lariat. And Ishii ended up winning the match, which I think was always going to be the case. I figured, you know, Ishii ended up winning, which I was fine with, but I thought Clark Connors really showcased his skills, and he even did a promo saying that he's not going to leave Japan until he feels like he's ready and fully trained in the style to become successful. And Ishii said that he's going to win that AEW All-Atlantic Championship and defend it all over the world. So, unfortunately, though, something's going to end up happening where that didn't happen, but it is what it is. As of right now, as of this moment, we were going to see Ishii in the 4-way, but there was some changes to that. But overall, I enjoyed all these matches in the All-Atlantic New Japan side of things. Definitely check out Kanamora versus Ishii if you have a chance, because that was great. Clark Connors versus Ishii was great as well. Hama versus Clark Connors was really good. But the match I would definitely check out is Ishii versus Kanamora. Then we had AEW Elevation, episode 68. We had Excalibur, Mark Henry, and Anthony Ogogo on commentary for the first 3 matches, which I thought was cool because I've always enjoyed hearing Anthony Ogogo on commentary. But then he ended up getting off commentary to be ringside for the main event. And let's just get right into it. We had the first match. It was Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez versus Heather Reckless and Tootie Lynn. If you saw the match from the last episode, it was pretty much the same match where it was a game of one-upsmanship between Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez. And they ended up locking double submissions onto each wrestler and getting the win. So, yeah, more continuation into a games of one-upsmanship. Like I said, I do expect in the future an ROH Women's World Championship match to take place between these two. I would love to see it happen on either Dynamite or Rampage. It's probably going to end up being Rampage just because it feels like more of a Rampage type match, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll talk more about that when this is going to play into the two more shows I review on this show. We also had a match that was really a sleeper. I'm surprised they did this on the Elevation out of nowhere. It was Andrade El Idolo versus Frankie Kazarian. I don't know why this was on Elevation and it wasn't on Dynamite, because this easily should have just been on Dynamite, but it was really good. It was really back and forth. I kind of had a feeling it was really predictable. Andrade El Idolo was going to win because he really needs a recovery push after really not being booked the strongest in AEW with the whole Pac thing, and then, under the AFO really not working out in his favor, but it was really good. Andrade El Idolo ended up getting the win with the Hammerlock DDT, but I would definitely recommend watching this match if you haven't seen it. It was really good. Then we got to see Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir team up to take on Max the Impaler and Heidi Hauser. I was kind of interested to see how this match was going to work out, because you have Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir. You have Marina Shafir, who's the MMA fighter, and you have Nyla Rose, who is a powerhouse. So I was kind of interested to see how those styles was going to mix together as a team. And you had Max the Impaler and Heidi Hauser, who are just two powerhouses. They should honestly just sign them and be a tag team. And yeah, Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir ended up going over. There was kind of a bad spot in the match where, one of I believe it was Heidi Hauser, ended up hitting a stiff shot on Marina Shafir, and it looked like she got legit knocked out for a second, but because she was kind of overselling it, flopping around like this and stuff. But other than that, I thought the match was decent. And it might be leading to some type of partnership between Marina Shafir and Nyla Rose, because they were together this week on AEW Dynamite, so we'll have to wait and see. Then we had Swerve in Our Glory versus David Vega and Matt Fidget. They were kind of teasing throughout this match that there's some dissension between Swerve and Our Glory because of Swerve Strickland eliminating Keith Lee from the Battle Royal, which I kind of like that they brought up, because Keith Lee should be pissed about that, because he had every chance to eliminate Swerve Strickland from the Battle Royal, but he chose not to. And Swerve Strickland just did it to him out of nowhere. And it was also for a world championship. You should be pissed about that type of stuff. But I like that there's still some dissension, but it's not complete dissension. It's not the teams are completely exploding, but there's little teases of it. When Swerve Strickland went for a fist bump, Keith Lee denied it. And then the finish of the match was when Keith Lee got into the win, he went for the Spirit Bomb. And typically they have the finishes. Swerve Strickland also does a double knees combo with it, but Keith Lee refused to go over to the corner close enough to do that, so he just ended up hitting the Spirit Bomb. So like I said, I like that there are teasing dissension between Swerve and Our Glory. So I'm enjoying to see where that goes. It could lead to Swerve Strickland turning heel, which I think could be interesting, because he's a really good heel if you've seen his NXT work. So I'm interested in seeing how that happens. But yeah, Swerve and Our Glory with another dominant performance. Then we had Anna Jay versus Rebel. This was a squash, which I really didn't expect it to be a squash, considering the fact that Rebel is aligned with Britt Baker. I expected her to get some offense into this match, but that was not the case. Anna Jay just locked her into the Queen Slayer, and she tapped out really quick, but it is what it is. We had Tony Nese with Mark Sterling versus Warhorse. Tony Nese ended up getting the win. This was somewhat of a competitive match, but still kind of a squash, but Tony Nese ended up getting the win. It does kind of make sense, though, because Warhorse is a name that people are going to recognize from his TNT Championship match with Cody. So it kind of makes sense to, have this be somewhat competitive. But yeah, Tony Nese ended up getting the win. Then we had Ruby Soho versus Moana Gordy. Moana Gordy attacked Ruby Soho before the match started, but Ruby Soho was able to overcome it and hit the right kick for the win, or Not the wide kick, but the Blade Runner. There's a new name for it, but I forget what it is. And yeah, Ruby Soho continues to be Miss Doc because she can't get off Doc. That's apparently all she can do nowadays. We had Matt Seidel versus QT Mochelle, and QT Mochelle was accompanied by the Factory, which consists of Nick Camarado, Aaron Solo, and Anthony Agogo. I actually thought that QT Mochelle was going to get a win because of the fact that Anthony Agogo was out there. I thought he would get his punch in the ribs of Matt Seidel. I think I said that in my predictions, but that was not the case. And, considering the fact that Matt Seidel doesn't get pushed all that strongly, but yeah, that was not to be. The Factory ended up getting banned from ringside in the match, and it allowed Matt Seidel to defeat QT Mochelle with a roll-up. So that was interesting. Matt Seidel actually got the win, but I don't really think it matters all that much. I don't think any person's position in the company is really going to change all that much. I think, they're still going to have the same position on the card. But yeah, I enjoyed this for the most part. Matt Seidel, I enjoy very much so. So yeah, and that was AEW Elevation for the most part. I thought it was a decent little show. I really would recommend watching Frankie Kazarian versus Andrade El Idolo, and I would definitely recommend watching QT Marshall versus Matt Seidel. So, moving on now to AEW Dark. AEW Dark was back in the Universal Studios, and it was commentated by Taz and Excalibur, but they weren't actually in the arena. I believe they just did a Zoom call and just did commentary over it in post. Because they do make reference to it throughout the show. And you could kind of tell a little bit because sometimes when they talk, they'll talk over each other because of the delay and all that type of stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much how that happened. It kicked off with Matt Caster versus Trevor Eon. And this was the first time that the Acclaimed have been in Universal Studios since Anthony Bowen suffered his injury because he ended up having to come out in the wheelchair, and the stairs in the arena aren't wheelchair accessible, so he was just on the stage the whole time. Matt Caster had some type of controversial rap in this during his before the match. I forget exactly what it was. I believe it had something to do with the school shootings, which was kind of like, don't think that should have happened. Or either that or abortion rights. It was something like that. But again, not the best time. I don't think it was the best time to be doing that. I was kind of like, But yeah, this was actually somewhat competitive. Matt Caster though ended up getting the win with the mic drop, and no Gun Club here. I don't know why they were here, but they weren't. So it is what it is. But yeah, Matt Caster got the win, which I don't think surprised anybody. But Trevor Aeon did get some offense in this match. It wasn't a total squash, but it was somewhat competitive. But yeah. Then we had Pentagon versus Very Morales. I was kind of interested to see how this match was going to go because Pentagon typically is a fall guy. Anytime him and Luther have a match, I think he always takes the fall. He always gets beaten up by Luther. If there's an 8-man match, he usually takes the loss. And every once in a while, AEW likes to throw a bone and have the enhancement talent win. We've seen it happen before with Willa Yuta when he defeated Ryan Nemeth, which led to Willa Yuta getting the push that he has now. I believe it happened with Robert Anthony when he defeated Serpentico, actually. It happened with Lee Johnson when he destroyed Peter Avalon. So every once in a while, it does happen, but this was not the case. Serpentico ended up getting the win. And it's kind of funny because after he won, if you go on his Instagram, and I think it's on AEW's Instagram as well, there's all these special rules now that he wants enforced into his matches now. I can't really list them all, but it's basically all rules that are kind of done for comedy, for laughs, for giggles, and I think it's kind of funny. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that happens. But yeah, so Pentagon ended up getting the win. It was actually a pretty decent little match. It was kind of a match you only get to see Serpentico work because he was actually the taller and more powerful competitor in the match, so he got to do stuff you don't really get to see him do. Then we had Chris Statlander squash Ava Everett. You got to see Chris Statlander do some new moves in the match. She ended up hitting a suplex into a pile driver, which was pretty cool. But yeah, it was a way to get Chris Statlander over, so I enjoyed this for the most part. Then we had John Silver and Alex Reynolds versus Peter Avalon and Cesar Bononi. John Silver and Alex Reynolds representing Dark Order, and Peter Avalon and Cesar Bononi representing the Windmen. I haven't really been able to talk about it, but the Windmen as a faction, I think, is a decent little faction, but I think the Windmen should just consist of the tag team of Peter Avalon and Ryan Nemeth. They fit the gimmick anyways, and I think you're really miscasting Cesar Bononi and JD Drake. If I was booking AEW, I would sign Taga Ruas and have Cesar Bononi and him team up because they make a great tag team and it actually fits their gimmicks. And I would sign, I believe his name is Mark Huntman or something. It's the guy that teams up with JD Drake. I believe they're called the Workhorsemen. I forget his name, but I would have them team up and also be in the tag team because they're really good as a tag team because they're actually a tag team in real life. But it is what it is. Fairly enjoyable match here. It was kind of cool to see John Silver actually get the heat and Alex Reynolds be the guy that gets the hot tag because usually it's the other way around. So I thought that was kind of cool. And Dark Order ended up getting the win with a double destroyer onto Peter Avalon. And afterwards, the Windmen attacked them after the match. And Evil Uno and 10 ended up running out and chasing them off. So I expect this to lead to an 8-man tag, either on Elevation or Dark on the next episode, or it could lead to just a regular tag match with Evil Uno and 10 versus Ryan Nemeth and JD Drake, and then we'll get the 8-man tag. They could easily do both of them in the same week, and I'd be fine with either or. Then we had Brock Anderson and Varsity Blonde squash Larry Lizard, Teriyaki, and Jay Lucas. It's really weird that Varsity Blondes haven't made any type of statement regarding Julia Hart, Jordan House of Black, because they were together. I believe they were together for like over a year, and they really haven't really mentioned it at all. But maybe they're gonna do that at some point. But I feel like I feel like they were a big part of that storyline. I feel like that should be brought up. They should do some type of match between them. Yeah, that's pretty much that. And I actually thought Brock Anderson and Varsity Blondes made a decent little trios. They kind of reminded me of the Four Horsemen in a way. So that was pretty cool. Then we had Devlin Macabui, I don't know if that's how you say that, versus Diamante. This was another squash. Diamante just easily destroyed her. Diamante, they really don't utilize all that well either. I like to see her occasionally challenge for the AEW Women's Championship with the TBS title. They really haven't utilized her all that well since her feud with Big Swole, and she kind of just shows up on Dark and has matches on occasion. So I would like to see her to get utilized a little bit more. Then we had Tony Nese versus JDX. This was a Pure Wolves match, and Tony Nese still ended up getting the win. I thought it was weird this was a Pure Wolves match, but then once they made the announcement, we found out why it was. Smart Mark Stolen bragged about the fact that all of his clients are defeated in singles competition, which, if you think about it, is actually true. And he proposes a challenge and challenges Willa Yuta to put up his ROH Pure Championship next week against Tony Nese. And later on in the show, he ends up accepting, and this is kind of crucial because it's going to be the day before Blood and Guts, and it kind of makes sense for them to do this because of the fact that Smart Mark's, Willa Yuta is probably going to be focusing on Blood and Guts, and maybe, he won't want to get injured and all that type of stuff. So I kind of like that they're doing this, and I think that's going to be a hell of a match also. Then we had Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez get interviewed, talk about their tag team, and say that they don't necessarily like each other, but they can't argue with the results, that it's worked out. But basically, they threaten each other if they cross each other. But Serena Deeb does say that she has interest in going after that Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. Then we had Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez cross Yadi and Anna Diaz. Basically the same match we've seen from the past 2 episodes of Elevation, where it's a game of one-upsmanship. So that was decent right there. Then we had the main event, which was building throughout the show. It was Jay Lethal versus Blake Christian. I was actually kind of excited about this match once I found out it was announced, because I like both these wrestlers. I like Blake Christian. I like Jay Lethal. Blake Christian did an interview earlier in the show where he talked about how he was trained by Sanjay Dutt, and he is hoping that Sanjay Dutt will just keep the match one-on-one and let Blake Christian sink or swim on his own. And Jay Lethal bragged about the fact that he's a much better wrestler and more experienced than Blake Christian. And it was actually a hell of a match. These two really went at it. Blake Christian, you actually thought could have won this match on several occasions, but it was not to be after interference from Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt. Jay Lethal ended up hitting the lethal injection. Actually, he didn't hit the lethal injection. He hit the Macho Man elbow drop for the win. And obviously that makes sense, because Jay Lethal is the one that's being pushed right now with this faction with Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt. But it was still a hell of a match. And I hope they end up signing Blake Christian at some point, because he's very good. I think that he should either get signed to AEW or he should be signed with Impact as part of the X Division, because he would be great for the X Division. But that was AEW Dark. I thought it was a fairly enjoyable show. I enjoyed the tag match, and I enjoyed the main event. I thought it was really good stuff. Then we had AEW Dynamite, probably the best show of the week. And we had the same people on commentary that you always see, which is, Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone. And we had Bryan Danielson come out to cut his promo. This was hyped up all week, where Bryan Danielson was going to come out and address his status for Forbidden Door and Blood and Guts. And he talked about how when he signed with AEW, he was there to fight the best pro wrestlers in the world. And he talked about how it's great to be a professional wrestling fan right now because of all Blood and Guts and Forbidden Door coming up. And he talked about why each match and stuff is unique. And he talked about his history with Zack Sabre Jr. and kind of the career he's built on the indies. However, he says, unfortunately, he's not going to be medically cleared in time for either show. He said that it's not going to be permanent because he's come back from worse injuries. But he said that he will be back. But he says that the good news is that he has a surprise opponent for Zack Sabre Jr. And it's going to be somebody that's also going to be taking his place in the Blood and Guts match. And they pretty much imply the fact that this person will be a part of the Blackpool Combat Club. It's somebody that he trusts and someone that he really respects to bring out the best out of Zack Sabre Jr. at Blood and Guts. Well, not at Blood and Guts, but at Forbidden Door. And afterwards, right when you think the interview is going to be over, because Tony Schiavone was supposed to be interviewing him, but that didn't happen. Zack Sabre Jr. actually came out. He didn't get much of a reaction, which was kind of disappointing. But and he had a little face-off with Bryan Danielson and said that he's the best technical wrestler in the world, and he's going to prove that by dispatching of whoever Bryan Danielson, brings out to face him at Forbidden Door. This was really good segment. I thought Bryan Danielson really brought the goods when it came to his promos. And I also thought that, having the announcement of a mystery guy really brings intrigue into the match on Sunday, which is today. I will give my predictions of who I think that mystery guy will be when I actually do my predictions for Forbidden Door later in this broadcast. Then we had Will Ospreay and Aussie Open versus Orange Cassidy and Roppongi Vice. What a hell of a match this was. It was really just a hell of a spot fest. It was Orange Cassidy's first match back since, I believe, the ladder match at Revolution. And eventually he ended up getting the win when he hit the orange punch onto one of the guys in Aussie Open. I forget who it was. And, it was a hell of a match. And it made sense for this to happen, considering the fact that Orange Cassidy gets some much-needed momentum going into his match with Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship at Forbidden Door. So I was happy about this. Then we had Jay Lethal backstage with Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt. But yeah, definitely check out that 6-man tag. I really can't do it justice. Yeah, we had Jay Lethal backstage with Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh. And he talked about how Samoa Joe has been a lazy ROH World Television Champion. And he gives Samoa Joe two options. He can either show up at some point and defend that ROH World Television Championship against him. Or he can surrender, forfeit, that's the word I was thinking of, the title to him and actually let the championship be defended every week. And I obviously think Samoa Joe's going to return. I imagine what's going to happen is he's going to be out in the ring either cutting a promo or having some type of squash match, and Samoa Joe will run out with a pipe or something and accept his challenge. I expect this match won't take place next week, but I think it's going to take place on the Rampage or Dynamite after Blood and Guts. So that should be exciting. Then Christian Cage did a promo. This was his first promo back since, this was his first promo since he's turned on, this was his first promo since he's turned on Jungle Boy, and it was a hell of a promo. I really enjoyed it. He pretty much came out and talked about how everybody was against him. Let me backtrack because, somebody called me and I had to reject the call, so it kind of threw me off track a little bit. And I have a feeling the house phone's going to win, so I'm going to have to pause this video for a second. But, so I was really interested to hear what he was going to say because this was going to be his first heel turn, his first promo since the heel turn. And it was a hell of a promo. And I liked how AEW remembers their history. There was continuity here. And that's a big thing I like in my professional wrestling. He remembered about the fact that Jungle Boy eliminated him from the Casino Battle Royal and everybody cheered. And he was disgusted about it because everybody was pretty much cheering about the fact that he got eliminated from the Battle Royal when yet everybody loved him when he came to AEW and everything like that. But he says that, maybe if the fans like him, I should, see what this kid's all about. I'll take him under my wing and see if, if the fans are actually right here. And I love how he ranted on the fans about the fact that they don't really know what professional wrestling is because they haven't bet in the business. And I like how he pretty much mentioned the fact, because a lot of people were criticizing the fact that Christian Cage stopped wrestling all of a sudden. And I like how AEW kind of gave a reason for that, is the fact that he was just looking to make big money for not having to do anything. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that, they brought up the fact about the MJF situation where he talked, and again, kind of talked about that promo without talking about it if they're going to bring MJF back, where he talked about how a lot of people, these AEW originals, are complaining about the fact that people like him are getting paid more money. And he says that once you have a match that people talk about for more than a week and, gets pay-per-views named after that match, then we can talk. And he even talked about the fact that people's families showed people that match, how that match has lived a legacy. And he talked about how Jungle Boy, finally didn't really fulfill his investment anymore because he ended up losing the ladder match. And he ended up talking about the fact, and they ended up showing the footage from last week when Christian Cage talked shit to Jungle Boy's family. And Christian Cage said that he was just apologizing about the fact that, he was apologizing for the fact that they gave birth to Jungle Boy, and they were just upset that they couldn't make Christian Cage his sugar daddy, and that Christian Cage, Jungle Boy's father's not going to be able to see him in the ring ever because he's dead. Which you could make an argument that was probably too far, but it is what it is. I'm assuming that Jungle Boy was cool with it, and I think Jungle Boy's father, William Perry or whatever his name is, would be okay with that. It led to Luchasaurus coming out, and he ended up choking Christian Cage in the corner, and Christian Cage was trying to talk him out of it by reminding him what happened to Marco's stunt and all these people, and it caused Luchasaurus to stop, and Christian Cage whispered something to his head so they could talk about it privately backstage. And it's interesting to see what's going to happen here if Luchasaurus is going to be in alliance with Christian Cage and turn heel with him. I'm interested to see if that could happen, or if it's going to lead to a match between Christian Cage and Luchasaurus, and then, Christian Cage would beat him there. So I'm interested to see what Christian Cage has over Luchasaurus. But what a hell of a promo this was by Christian Cage, and I really loved it. I thought it was awesome. And I can't wait to see Jungle Boy come back and do something about this. Then we had the Young Bucks and Kyle O'Reilly backstage. They were talking about how Bobby Fish's injury caused him to be out for a while, and how because of the injuries that Kyle O'Reilly suffered at the hands of Stin and Darby Allin on Rampage, he's unable to compete at Forbidden Door. But the Young Bucks throw out the challenge, and it's gonna and for one night they're gonna rejoin Bullet Club, and it's gonna be the Young Bucks, Hikuleo, and El Phantasmo versus Stin and Darby Allin and two tag team members of their choosing. And they picked Shingo Takagi and Hiromu Tanahashi, which there's going to be a change on that later, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, that was really enjoyable. I really can't wait to see that match, and I'm looking forward to it. Then we had Malachi Black versus Penta Oscuro in the All-Atlantic Championship qualifier. Hell of a match here. Really could have gone either way. I actually didn't even remember that Penta Oscuro wasn't going to win the match because of his AAA contracts not allowing him to show up at Forbidden Door. But, that just shows you the suspense of the match, how good the match was, that I was able to forget about that. I was able to suspend my disbelief. But Malachi Black ended up winning with the Black Mass, the high kick. And now we're going to have Malachi Black versus Pac versus what we thought at the time, Tomo Ishii versus Miro. Pac and Ray Phoenix came out and had a face-off, and Miro did a promo talking about how he finds it fitting that he finally talks down on his God for causing his failure, yet now he's brought up this All-Atlantic Championship, and he said he's going to win this championship in spite of God, which I think is going to be cool. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I'm looking forward to this Fatal 4-Way match. Unfortunately, there's been some changes in the development of it, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, hell of a match between Malachi Black and Penta Oscuro. I would definitely recommend watching it. Then we had Wardlow do a promo pretty much talking about how he doesn't care who he has to go through. He's going to get what he wants, and that's the TNT Championship. Then we had Hangman Adam Page versus Silas Young with Adam Cole on commentary for the match. I had to think of a second if he actually was on commentary, but he was. And a hell of a match here. I like that they talk about the history between Silas Young and Hangman Adam Page from the days in ROH. I didn't even know Silas Young still wrestled because I haven't seen him wrestle on the ROH pay-per-views, even before Tony Khan bought it. But Heyman Adam Page ended up getting the buckshot lariat onto him. And afterwards, Adam Page talked about how he wants to go after that IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. But Adam Cole says that that's not going to happen. He says, if anyone's going to go after it, he is. But before he could really finish his promo, Jay White came out and said that he's not going to defend the title against Adam Cole or against Heyman Adam Page. And he pretty much just kept poking the bear of Adam Page and talking about the fact that, without him and without Bullet Club, Adam Page would be nothing in AEW, and Adam Page attacked him. Really went to town on Jay White, but when he went for the buckshot lariat, Adam Page held his leg, ended up hitting a low blow onto him, and they both went to town onto him, and eventually Adam Cole grabbed the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and looked like he was going to hit Jay White with the title, but when Jay White turned around, he acted like he was going to have Jay White hold him up and hit him with the belt, which I kind of like that they did that little storyline nod right there. And then we had the debut on AEW of Kazuchika Okada, and Okada showed up and attacked Jay White and Adam Cole, and the baby faces chased off the heels. And now because of this, we found out later in the show we're going to have a fatal four-way match for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship between all these guys. Adam Page versus Jay White versus Adam Cole versus Kazuchika Okada. I'm really excited about it. The only thing that's disappointing is that, Adam Page, not Adam Page, but Kazuchika Okada really didn't get much of a reaction when he debuted, but what it is. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I'm looking forward to seeing that Fatal 4-Way match, because now it could be anybody's match, and I'll talk more about that when I do predictions for it. Then they did some more build-up for the TBS Women's Championship division. Jade and Kiera Hogan talked about how Red Velvet's gone down to an injury now, so they're pretty much taking applications to find new baddies. And then later on in the show, Chris Statlander and Althena did a promo talking about how Jade and Kiera Hogan could find whoever they want as a baddie. However, it doesn't change the fact that eventually Jade's going to lose the TBS Women's Championship to one of them, which is probably going to be Althena. This was decent stuff. I really didn't care for the promo between Althena and Chris Statlander. It sounded very scripted and very hokey. But yeah, it is what it is. As for who the new baddie could be, I'm really not sure who it could be. I doubt this is going to happen, but I would like to see Big Swole and AEW patch things up, and they can bring her back and have her join the baddies, because that would be interesting. But I'm really not sure who else could join up with Jade and Kiera Hogan. They could have Willow Nightingale turn heel and show up with her, but that could be interesting, but I doubt that's going to happen. Then we had Marina Shafia versus Toni Storm. Marina Shafia was accompanied by Nyla Rose, so that shows that there's something brewing there as a tag team. And throughout much of the match, Nyla Rose kept interfering, and it led to Thunder Rosa coming out to even the odds, and eventually it allowed Toni Storm to hit the Storm Zero for the win, and afterwards her and Thunder Rosa had a face-off with Thunder Rosa holding up the title. I think this women's title match really feels out of place on this show. I think I talked about it last week. I think they should have brought in Kairi Sane or Kairi Hio or Hojo or whatever, however you say her name outside of WWE. And they do that match instead, and then build to this match on a future episode of Dynamite, because it just feels out of place on this show. But it's what it is. I think the match would be really deliver, though. I think somebody should have laid somebody out, though. Like, I think they should have had Toni Storm lay out Thunder Rosa with the Storm Zero. Not necessarily a heel turn, just kind of sending a message. But that didn't happen. Then we had the main event. It was Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer and Chris Jericho. We had William Regal on commentary for it. I love that he continuously calls Excalibur Man with the Mask, like he hasn't bothered to learn the guy's name. I'd love to see William Regal on commentary full time, by the way. I know some people say it would interfere with his manager role, but I don't necessarily think that could be the case because we've seen that Taz could be on commentary full time and be a manager at the same time. I would honestly like to see him on Rampage and replace Chris Jericho because I think he would actually bring something to the table and not take over the show. But that's just me. Moxley did an interview earlier in the show talking about his match some more with Hiroshi Tanahashi, and says that pretty much doesn't really say anything new, but the stuff that he said was pretty damn good. Talking about how he's going to be the ace of not the ace of professional wrestling and stuff. Really good match here. They got the heat for a while on Jon Moxley, and then eventually Tanahashi made the hot tag, and eventually after some miscommunication, Moxley hit the paradigm shift, followed by the Swanton frog splash by Tanahashi. And Moxley and Tanahashi ended up getting the victory. Afterwards, the Jericho Appreciation Society started beating down Moxley and Tanahashi, but eventually Proud and Powerful, Eddie Kingston, and I think it was just them, Proud and Powerful, and Eddie Kingston ran out to make the save. And eventually Minoru Suzuki just came out. I like that he just showed up. He didn't make a entrance or anything like. Oh, it was Willie Yuta. That was the other guy that made the save, by the way. He just showed up. He didn't really have an entrance, probably because they couldn't fit it into the show. But I like that he just showed up. And during this brawl, Moxley and Tanahashi just faced off with each other. Didn't strike any blows or anything like that, which I'm actually kind of excited about because even though they probably should have had some type of altercation, I kind of like that it saves the match for the pay-per-view, that we haven't seen these two really touch physically yet. They probably haven't. I'm pretty sure they had a Fatal 4-Way match recently in New Japan, but I haven't seen them really mix it up, so it's going to be new to me. But yeah, I'm excited to see these two go at it, and that was the end of Dynamite. I like that it ended in chaos, which I always enjoy, and that was, I thought, the go-home episode of AEW Dynamite going into Forbidden Door was a hell of a show. I thought it really built up the matches really well, so I enjoyed it. So that was that. Then we have Rampage. We had Taz, Excalibur, and Chris Jericho on commentary for the show. And we had Andrade El Idolo versus Rey Fenix. I was really excited to see this match because I haven't really seen it yet, and they're both tremendous wrestlers. They both represent the lucha, part of wrestling. So I was really looking forward to seeing it. And they did a really good video package hyping up the match on Dynamite where they talked about their history with each other. And yeah, it was a hell of a match. I think this is probably the longest match that's taken place on Rampage because it went through 2 commercial breaks. And I definitely go out of your way to watch it. There was a spot where Rey Fenix went for some type of frog splash or something, or was going to go for one, but Andrade El Idolo thought he outsmarted him by rolling outside the ring, but Rey Fenix just did a flip dive anyways onto the outside, which was cool. He went for the arm drag off of the ropes, but Andrade El Idolo kicked the rope down and caused Rey Fenix to be crouched under it. There was a 3 Amigos spot in the match. We had a Spanish Fly. They did a reverse one as well. Just really go out of your way to watch this match. It's a hell of a match. Eventually, Alex Abrahantes and Andrade El Idolo's business partner got into it, and it distracted the referee, which allowed Roos to show up. He had a low blow on Rey Fenix, followed by the Hammerlock DDT by Andrade El Idolo onto Rey Fenix for the win. And now it's official. Andrade El Idolo and Roos are now a tag team together. They've gone back to their faction name in AAA, which I have no clue what the name of it is, but as they show up more, I'll know. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here. And it looks like the AFO, they've just dropped that storyline because there was no mention of that on the show. It looks like it's just going to be Andrade teaming up with Roosh, which I'm fine with. And I'm really looking forward to see what they do as a tag team. I'd like to see them get the tag titles at some point. So, And afterwards, Roos ripped off Ray Phoenix's mask, and it caused Penta Oscuros to run out, and it caused them to flee. So I'm thinking we're going to get a tag match with the Lucha Bros versus Andrade El Idolo and Roos, which I think will be awesome. Then Swerve and Al Glory were backstage. Well, I guess I'll cover this now. Eddie Kingston was backstage, and he pretty much just hyped up Blood and Guts, talked about the match at Forbidden Door, and talked about how at Blood and Guts he's going to make Chris Jericho taste his own blood. Then Swerve and Our Glory were backstage, and they talked about how they've been on a roll lately, even though they haven't been on the same page. And they talked about how they're going to continue that roll by facing Suzuki Gun members El Desperado and Kanamora, Yoshinobu Kanamora, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I think that's going to be a really good match. It's going to be on the buy-in, so that'll be interesting. But Keith Lee still is unhappy with Swerve Strickland. Then we had Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez versus Lane Luck and Soria. More of the same matches we've seen on Elevation and Dark, where they're just trying to one-up each other. However, this time, when Mercedes Martinez bounced off the ropes, she inadvertently bumped Serena Deeb, and she wasn't happy about it, but it's still, they still were able to work together and make each other tap out, so kind of interesting to see what's going to happen there. Then Tully Enterprises did a promo, which was interesting because we haven't seen him since Supercard of Honor. Brian Cage has returned to AEW itself, and they talk about how they're going to be the most dominant faction in AEW. And then later on in the show, Jonathan Gresham and Lee Moriarty did a promo backstage. Lee Moriarty talked about how he was on a roll on as of late and wants that ROH World Championship. However, Tully Blanchard ran up and talked about how his faction's been on a roll. So Jonathan Gresham and Lee Moriarty challenged them to a tag match next week, and Tully Blanchard accept. I don't think he didn't say next week, but it looks like that's going to be the case, which I'm looking forward to. I imagine what's going to happen is the tag team that's representing Tully Enterprises will win by pinning Lee Moriarty, and maybe we're going to get a future ROH World title match between Brian Cage and Jonathan Gresham, which I'd love to see. I would really love to see that. Then Hook squashed the DKC. I thought that made sense considering the fact that they've been really pushing Hook lately. So that was interesting. Then the Gun Club and the Acclaim were backstage. They did a joke talking about how Billy Gunn uses Stroke backstage to get them a match on the buy-in. And Austin and Colton Gunn were excited about it, thinking they were going to go wrestle in the Tokyo Dome, but we found out it was just in Chicago. I thought this was hilarious. It was awesome. Then we had Jeff Cobb versus Cash Wheeler. This was really good. And I thought they delivered the goods in the ring. They did a thing backstage with Mark Henry where they talked about how even though Cash Wheeler's not typically a singles wrestler, he's going to still win the fight to Jeff Cobb, and Jeff Cobb talked about how he's going to put some respect on his name by the end of the night, and it looks like that was the case because Jeff Cobb beat Cash Wheeler with the Island of the Suns, I believe it's called, and afterwards the Great O'Connell came out to celebrate with Jeff Cobb, but Dax Harwood attacked him, and it led to a big brawl by the end of the show where United Empire brawled with Chaos, which is being represented by Best Friends. And during this, Jericho was calling it. Eddie Kingston attacked Chris Jericho, and everyone just got into a big brawl. Eddie Kingston tried to stab Chris Jericho with a pen at one point, and it just led to a big brawl. Everything was out of control by the end of the show. And yeah, that was this week's content in AEW. I enjoyed this week. I'm gonna give this week. I'm gonna give it an A+. I can't really think of anything I really didn't enjoy on this show. Nothing at all. So yeah, that's like 3 A+ in the span of 3 weeks. So keep it up, AEW. You're doing some good stuff. And yeah, now that I've kind of gone through that, let's go through my predictions for Forbidden Door and AEW content for next week. So let's talk about it. I have to remember not to minimize this. So let's start with Forbidden Door, since that's the show that's going to take place first. To kind of talk about how I think this show has been hyped up. I know there's been some issues with this show, how it's been kind of a cursed show because we've had some injuries to the biggest one being to CM Punk, since he was supposed to face Hiroshi Tanahashi on this show for the AEW World title, but then the injury kind of caused him to have to make this whole Eliminator series out of it. So that kind of sucked. We got the injury to Bryan Danielson, which was poorly timed, and he was supposed to face Zack Sabre Jr. Then we had some, politic issues where certain people couldn't show up, like Andrade Alidolo and the Lucha Brothers, because of their AAA contracts. And we've had some issues with, not Andrade Alidolo, probably with the Good Brothers as well, since they're signed with Impact. So that kind of sucks. And then we just recently now had an issue with another injury that took place was with Tomo Ishii. He was supposed to be in the Fatal 4-Way match, but because of the knee injury he got probably from the Kanamora match, it's now Clark Connors replacing him in the Fatal 4-Way match. And then we have a COVID scare. It's not necessarily a COVID scare, but Hiromu Takahashi ended up having a fever, so he wasn't able to travel to the U.S. So now the 8-man tag team match has been changed to a 6-man, where they've taken out, I believe, Hikuleo or El Phantasmo. I forget which one, but when I read the predictions, you'll know. So there has been this show has been cursed in some ways. However, I still think we're going to get a really good show out of it. I still think this is going to be exciting. We're going to see dream matches that we've never really seen before. And I think AEW has tried to make the best out of a bad situation. I still think the build is there for the show, and I'm still looking forward to it. So that's just my thoughts. And let's just get to predicting the show. Starting with the buy-in, we have the Gun Club, which is going to be Billy, Austin, and Colton Gunn, as well as Matt Castle representing it, versus representing the LA Dojo, Alex Coughlin, the DKC, and Kevin Knight, as well as Yua Uemura. I think this is going to be an easy victory for the Gun Club. I think this match will be good, but I think the Gun Club, they just, and Max Castro had just been put together as a faction. I think they really want to get that faction over, so I think they're going to win this match. Then we have the Factories, QT Marshall and Aaron Solo versus Bishopman, which is, I don't know if I pronounced that right, by the way, Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. And I think Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi are going to win that match. There's really no reason for them to lose. They're a top tag team in New Japan, and this is the Factory who always lose. So it would really kind of make Hiroki Goto and Hiroshi Tanahashi look really bad if they couldn't win this match. So I think they're going to win this match. We have Swerve in Our Glory versus representing Suzuki-gun El Desperado and Yoshibaru Kanamora. This could actually go either way, considering the fact that there's been some dissension now in the ranks between Swerve and Our Glory. They could easily have some type of screw-up where it causes El Desperado and Kanamora to pick up the victory. But I think they're going to give it to Swerve and Our Glory. I do think there's going to be some miscommunication, but I think at the end of the day, Swerve and Our Glory are going to get the victory in this match. So I'm going to predict them to win. Then we have the actual show itself. We have Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson's mystery opponent. And I predict that the mystery opponent's going to be Claudio Castagnoli. I think it's the one that makes the most sense. It's the person that's probably been the closest with Bryan Danielson. And it's the person that I think that could go head to head on a technicality standpoint with Zack Sabre Jr. So I think it's going to be Claudio Castagnoli, which I think would be awesome. And I think him being with the Blackpool Combat Club makes sense, considering the fact that if you remember in NXT, the Black and Gold era, I believe he was William Regal's last match. So I would imagine that, they're going to make sense out of that. So I do think the mystery guy is going to win anyways, because typically if there's a mystery guy in a match, the mystery guy always wins. And if you want to bring this guy in as a big deal, he should be winning. They easily could give it to Zack Sabre Jr. by interference from the Jericho Appreciation Society, but since they're kind of working with Suzuki Gun, because I believe Zack Sabre Jr. is in Suzuki Gun, but I think they're going to give it to Claudio Castagnoli or whoever the mystery guy is. But I think it's going to be Claudio Castagnoli. Then we have representing Bullet Club, El Phantasmo and the Young Bucks versus representing Dudes with Attitudes, Darby Allin, Stin, and Shingo Takagi. This could go either way. I'm interested to see how the Young Bucks and El Phantasmo are going to work together as a tag team, because they're both people that like to shoot the shit, fuck around when they wrestle in the ring, but doing the back rakes and stuff. So I'm actually kind of interested to see how they work together as a tag team. I wish they could have gotten Chase Owens in there, I guess, just because he would kind of fit with that stable. But I feel like the Young Bucks and El Phantasmo are on a whole different level than Chase Owens is. That's just my opinion. As for who I think will win this match, it really could go either way. Because you have the Dudes with Attitudes who are looking to get revenge on mainly Stin and Darby Allin on the Super Elite after they took Stin out, and but you also have the Bullet Club who need to look strong here. I'm gonna say the Dudes with Attitudes are gonna win. I think El Phantasmo is gonna take the loss, and I don't really think it's gonna hurt him all that much, considering the fact that he's gonna be in the fucking win with Stin. I don't think that's gonna really hurt him all that much. I actually think that's gonna give him some credibility. But yeah, so I'm gonna predict Dudes with Attitudes to win this match. I don't really like that name all that much, but whatever. Then we have for the AEW, for the our first title match of the night for the AEW Women's World Championship, we have Thunder Rosa defend against Toni Storm. Like I've said, I think this match is out of place, but it's happening. I think Thunder Rosa is going to retain the championship. I really don't see her losing the title on this show. She hasn't really done all that much with the belt. This is like the most she's been on TV in the span of a month. There was a while where she wasn't on TV for a while. So I think they're going to give her more stuff to do with the championship. I don't know who she's going to lose the title to. But I do think that Thunder Rosa is going to retain the championship. I think it's too early in her reign for her to lose the title. Then we have the three-way winner-take-all match for the ROH and IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. FTR defending the ROH World Tag Team Championships, and United Empire defending the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles, which is represented by Great O'Connor and Jeff Cobb versus Roppongi Vice. I think they got to give it to FTR if they want to be belt collectors. This is the way to go to do it. It's the only title really that FTR haven't held. They've held every title in WWE. They've held the ROH tag titles, the AEW that are currently holding the AAA tag team championships. I think they should just make them the belt collectors. I think the FTR is the best options. You can get killer matches with FTR in New Japan, like against, Hiroshi Hashi and Hiroki Goto. You can get really good matches with, if they put them back together, Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. You can get great matches with two members of House of Torture. I think there's a lot of matches you could do with FTR. You could give it to Roppongi Vice, because they'd be the dark horse pick. United Empire, I don't necessarily hate them as a tag team. I really don't think they should be the tag team champions. They don't have, they're not that excited in the ring to have killer tag team matches. You can even get FTR versus the Good Brothers too, because they're in New Japan technically. So, I think FTR, there's way more variety of matches you can do with them as a tag team, and more exciting matches you could do with them as a tag team if you give them the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. So I think FTR should retain the tag team titles. We have, and then we have the other title match on the show. We have the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship, Will Ospreay defending against Orange Cassidy. A lot of people probably don't want to see this match, but I actually like the idea of this match because if you think about it, they both kind of have the same gimmicks. Orange Cassidy basically doesn't care, and unless it's important, and Will Ospreay, because he's a heel, he doesn't care unless it's important. So I kind of like the idea of this match. I imagine whoever wins this match is probably going to face Juice Robinson to unify or determine the undisputed IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't necessarily think this is going to happen, but I'm going out on a limb, and I think Orange Cassidy is going to become the new IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion, because I think they should swerve us and have an AEW guy win one of New Japan's titles, and then a New Japan guy win an AEW championship. So I think the guy to do that with would be Orange Cassidy, because you can easily set up Juice Robinson versus Orange Cassidy, and I think that would be a really interesting match. And, by that, you can set up Will Ospreay versus Juice Robinson, because they both won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship without beating each other for said championship. So I think there's more outcomes you can get out of this match with Orange Cassidy winning the belt. And I really want to see that happen. I do think whoever does win this match, Juice Robinson, if he's healthy enough, is going to show up at the end of the show, and it's going to set up a title match between whoever wins this match, either on an episode of Dynamite, if it's Orange Cassidy, or at a future at a future New Japan show, if it's Will Ospreay. It's really stupid that they're not having Ospreay come out with the title, though. I get that they're doing a storyline there, but it's just kind of weird. Considering the fact, if they won on AEW television right now, I wouldn't really think of anything of it, but whatever. Then we have a match that's not necessarily for a championship, but the stakes are high. Whoever wins the 6-man tag team match is going to receive the man advantage in Blood and Guts. It's going to be Les Sex Gods and Minoru Suzuki versus Eddie Kingston, Willa Yuta, and Shota Umino. A lot of history in this match. Obviously, with the feud going on with the Blackpool Combat Club and Jericho Appreciation Society, but there is a history between Chris Jericho and Shota Umino, because during the match at Wrestle Kingdom 12 between Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho attacked Shota Umino during the match. So there is that bit of history here. So I'm kind of like that they're bringing that up. As for who wins, I do think it's obvious now that Les Sex Gods and Minoru Suzuki are going to get the win, because it's for the man advantage, and usually when they do the man advantage thing, when it's War Games or Blood and Guts or whatever they call it, Lethal Lockdown, they typically have, they typically have the heels get the man advantage, because it makes more sense, because the heels should get the man advantage, because they're consistently outnumbering the baby faces. So that's usually how they like to do things. I do think too, when the Jericho Appreciation Society finally gets the ultimate loss in the feud, that it's going to come at the hands at Blood and Guts. I think they should save that for when the baby faces finally get a win on them. So I do think that's going to be the case here. Then we have the Fatal 4-Way match to crown the inaugural All-Atlantic AEW champion. We have Pac versus Miro versus Malachi Black versus Clark Connors. Now, I was originally going to pick Tomo Ishii to be the first champion because of the whole New Japan AEW winning one of their belts scenarios. However, now with this injury, that takes that deal off the table. You could still give it to Clark Connors, but I don't think he is well established enough and experienced enough to really hold him gold right now. Definitely Next year, he probably could win some titles, but I think he needs to get, some more matches and stuff under his belt. And I don't think Pac and Malachi Black are going to win it. Malachi Black, I don't really think has the character to hold a title right now. I think he should kind of keep doing his thing with the House of Black gimmick. I think it should be a gimmick that doesn't really care about winning championships. So I don't really think you really need to do that. They could give it to Pac, because Pac's been AEW since it started and he hasn't won a title yet. And it could be a makeup for all that time he had to sit at home during the pandemic. You could give it to him. And then, you could have Pac and Malachi Black fight for that title, since that's a well-made feud already. However, I don't really think that feud needs the championship. I think that feud is personal enough on its own to not be for a title. I do think that Pac and Malachi Black are going to play a factor into each other not winning this match. And I think they're going to give it to Miro. I think it makes complete sense to give it to Miro. He just returned recently, and I think it validates his return. And I think he could do some great things with the All-Atlantic Championship. He kind of fits the mold of what an All-Atlantic Champion should be. And I think that title will look great on him. So I think Miro is going to become the first ever All-Atlantic Champion. And I think in the future, because I do think when Tomo Ishii is ready to go, he should be challenged for the title. I think a match between Miro and Tomo Ishii would be a hell of a match for the championship. Then we have the other Fatal 4 match that's going to take place on this show. It's going to be for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. It's going to be Jay White defending against Kazuchika Okada, Hangman Adam Page, and Adam Cole, baby. This match really could go either way. You could have Jay White just retain the championship, which would be fine because he just won it, so it makes sense for him to retain. And I really wouldn't complain about that. I think that's kind of a boring option, but I wouldn't understand it. You could have Okada win it back by not necessarily pinning Jay White, and you could set up a rematch between the two, where Jay White says, "You never beat me," to get the title back, and you could do a rematch on a future New Japan show, whether that's Wrestle Kingdom, whether that's one of the G1 Climax shows. You could have Heyman Adam Page win it, set up a match between Okada and Heyman Adam Page on an episode of Dynamite, because that's the match I want to see. And, you could have Okada win the belt back, and you could just still do Jay White versus Okada for the same reason. You could have Adam Page win the title, and still do that match and get the Jay White versus Okada match. You could have Adam Cole win the belt, since he's such a dark horse pick. Nobody would see it coming. And you could do Adam Cole versus Okada, have Okada win the belt, and have Jay White versus Okada still, because, Jay White never beat him for the belt. You could have actually, there's a lot of options here you can do with this match. I'm gonna do the match. I'm gonna do the one I want to see, and I'm gonna pick. And I'm gonna say this is gonna shock everybody. I think that. Oh, this is tough, actually. I don't think it's gonna be Adam Cole. I think he's kind of too much of a dark horse pick to win the belt. Even though it would swerve everybody, it would be a swerve just for the sake of doing a swerve. I think the candidates that have the most chance of winning are Jay White, Okada, and Adam Page. And I think I predicted differently when I did this originally, but I'm predicting Adam Page to become the brand new IWGP. No. You know what? I'm changing my mind. I think Kazuchika Okada is going to become the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. It's probably a bold prediction. I know they just took the belt off him. I think the only reason they did that was because they didn't think he was going to be on the show, because it was his wife's birthday. And they wanted to build some interest going into this match by having Jay White be the new champion. I think Okada is going to win back the championship. But he's going to pin Heyman Adam Page, and it's going to build something, whether it's a heel turn or some type of, Adam Page having low self-esteem issues, and it's going to cause some good character progression in Adam Page, and Okada's going to win the match by pinning Adam Page, and it's going to set up a future match at a New Japan show between Jay White and Okada, because Jay White will claim that Okada didn't beat him for the belt. So that's my prediction. I predict that Okada is going to become the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Then we have the main event. It's going to be for the interim AEW World Championship. Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. This one's really a tough one to call because you imagine whoever's going to win this match is going to face CM Punk to unify the titles. And they really, either one could win this and face CM Punk for the title. You could have Jon Moxley win. And that's a match I really wanted to see for a while. I know we've seen it before, but we haven't seen that match in 8 years. Over 8 years now, actually. And I would really like to see it. And, Jon Moxley being the AEW World Champion while Punk's away would be an interesting concept. But Hiroshi Tanahashi really could win this match to kind of throw everybody off and swerve everybody, since we were supposed to get Hiroshi Tanahashi versus CM Punk anyways. However, we just had a situation recently where Hiromu Takahashi couldn't show up on the show because of a fever. Do you really want to take the risk of the same thing happening to Hiroshi Tanahashi if he couldn't get back over to America and we couldn't have an AEW World Champion for a while? So that's really a tough one to pick, because as you know, then what do you do then if CM Punk isn't back? Would they have to do another match to crown a interim champion? It really would be weird. I think they're going to give it to Moxley, though. I think he makes the most sense to go with right now. He hasn't had the belt in a while, and I think he's going to be... I guess he'd be the first ever two-time AEW World Champion, even though it's an interim title. I don't know how that's going to work. And I think we're going to build to a match between Moxley and Punk. I think the promos between Moxley and Punk would be money, and I think we could get some really exciting matches there. I hope they don't just... I imagine the match is going to happen on an episode of TV. It could be at Fight for the Fallen, or I imagine it's not going to be at Fyter Fest, because I think that's coming up relatively soon. I think it's going to be at Fight for the Fallen. And we're going to get that match. And if they win back MJF, I think whoever wins that match is going to face MJF for the belt, which is probably going to be CM Punk, since there's more history between Punk and MJF. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So yeah, I predict that Moxley will become the new interim AEW World Champion. And those are my predictions for Forbidden Door. I'm gonna repeat them since I kind of babbled for a while. So I predict that the Gun Club and Max Caster are gonna win the buy-in 6-man tag team match. I predict that Hiroki Goto and Yoshihatsu are gonna beat the Factory. I predict that Swerve and Our Glory are gonna beat El Desperado and Kanamora. I predict that Bryan Danielson's mystery opponent is going to beat Zack Sabre Jr. I predict that Dudes with Attitudes are going to beat Bullet Club. I predict that Thunder Rosa is going to retain the AEW Women's World Championship. I predict that FTR are going to win all the gold. I predict that Orange Cassidy is going to become the new IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. I predict that Lay Sex Gods and Minoru Suzuki are going to win the 6-man tag team match and get the man advantage at Blood and Guts. I predict that Miro is going to become the inaugural AEW All-Atlantic Champion. I predict that Kazuchika Okada is going to become the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. And I predict that Jon Moxley is going to become the interim AEW World Champion. So those are my predictions for Forbidden Door. But I ain't done yet. There's more predictions to be had. Let's talk about them. We have at AEW Dark episode 150, unless they do it today, we're gonna have Willa Yuta defend the ROH Pure Championship against Tony Nese. I think this is gonna be a hell of a match. I think they're really gonna bring the best out of each other. I think Willa Yuta is going to easily retain the championship. There's really no reason for him to lose the title right now. I think he's doing some really good things with the championship. But I do think it's going to be a hell of a match. I think Willa Yuta is going to retain, though. Then we have Blood and Guts. We have the match itself. It's going to be the Jericho Appreciation Society. I don't know who's going to make up the faction now that Sammy Guevara's joined the group. I imagine it's probably just going to be the members that's been in the faction. Jericho, 2.0, and Jake Hager versus the Blackpool Combat Cup, which is Proud and Powerful, John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, and the mystery opponent that is going to face Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door. As for who I think will win this match, I imagine it's going to be the Blackpool Combat Club and the mystery opponent. I imagine the faces are going to win. It really doesn't make sense to do this match unless the baby faces win, because the Jericho Appreciation Society have beaten Eddie Kingston's group at every turn. It kind of makes sense for them to finally get their comeuppance here. They legit took Ortiz's hair, so I think it makes sense to go with Blackpool Combat Club here. And that's AEW Spark for this week. What a big week it was. My throat's sore from doing all this talking, but it is what it is. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Sorry if you're going to see it late, and sorry that if you see this Monday, a lot of this doesn't mean anything, but it's what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will see it. Let me know what you want to see from Spark. I'm going to try to do Spark right after Rampage this week, since I have plans over 4th of July weekend, so that way I could just have it out there. But that's obviously going to depend on how my work schedule works now and everything. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. And I'll talk to you guys later.
Podcast has concluded. Be sure to check out more group discussion as far as AEW content is concerned, and check out more content from For the Win Productions.